Can you guess what is strange and hidden about Cuba that no one knows about for so long? As a country that is almost isolated, with limited internet, is their economy stable? Do you wonder how the red light district in Cuba works? How it is different from your country? Is there anything horrifying about Cuban cuisine that makes tourists not dare to eat it? Today, Top 10 Mysteries will take you to an island nation in the Caribbean, part of Latin America, with 11.21 million people on an area of 109,884 kilometers. To see what is special about Cuba, watch the video 8 Strange Things Only in Cuba. Culture in restrooms. Do you believe that tipping culture is real in Cuba, but it is more real than that? All the toilets, even in small restaurants, have a staff sitting there with a plate. They give customers a thin wad of toilet paper, then point to the plate, asking for a tip. The strangest thing is that at the terminal entering the isolation area of the international airport, the girls wearing uniforms with skirts and blue shirts are very serious, also standing guard with the tip plate right in front of the door or in the toilets. That is why many people are afraid to go to the toilet, because they do not want to spend money on tips. Each time at least about 1.2 USD. Not a small amount. Some young people would rather choose banana bushes by the roadside for speed. And sometimes when they want a tip, they do not know what currency to give. Why is that? Unlike the US, which uses USD, and the UK, which uses pounds, Cubans have a headache, because there are too many currencies when this country is multi-ethnic. Mainly black people accounting for 51%, white people 37%, and is home to Spaniards, Africans, and indigenous people. That's right. People can pay in Cuban pesos, USD, euros, or MLC, a virtual currency launched by the government in 2019, used by loading USD into a magnetic card, which cannot be converted back to USD in cash. Next is the red light district, completely different from your imagination. I wonder if after watching it you will still be interested in coming here. How does the red light district in Cuba work? Unlike Reeperbahn Street in Hamburg, Germany, Pattaya in Thailand, when you come to Cuba, you will see a completely different red light district. No longer bustling with bright lights, red windows with girls inside, but like an old street with girls standing around, according to the men's comments. The formation is not very professional. That is just the morning scene. But at around 10 p.m., young women wearing skimpy dresses start gathering outside big hotels, asking male guests if they want to go to the nightclub. Most of the women doing this job in Cuba are part-timers and share the purpose of supporting themselves, not greedy for anything. They often sell their capital to European guests, earning about 50-75 USD a day, in addition to being invited to eat and drink and given gifts. This is the first country in the world to completely eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. And the medical care is even more advanced than in the US. Cheaper prices plus low rates of disease have turned the island into a tourist paradise for satisfying physiological needs in the Americas. Moreover, Cuban law does not seem to punish prostitution for children aged 16 to 18. Girls aged 14 can even get married with parental consent. When a Cuban girl turns 15, she will be considered a woman, not waiting until she has children. The red light district is like that. And whether the economy is green or withered, let the next content answer you. Cuba's subsidized economy. If you just search Google, you will get a very high GDP figure. But that could be a misconception or false statistics. Because Cuba is a totalitarian country, after Castro took power in 1961, there is no opposition, so the executive organization can publish any data without explanation. The monthly salary is not high. From 10-20 USD, the highest place is 35-40 USD month. Few people know that before World War II, the capital Havana of Cuba, considered the playground of rich men, was the largest sugar producer in the world and was not subject to an embargo. However, since 1959, the country's economy has weakened and has been subject to hundreds of embargoes from the US, through all the presidents, from the Donald Trump administration to Biden, except for former President Obama, who once said that the embargo on Cuba did not bring any benefits. Because of the deep embargo, Cubans are still poor and live under a subsidized regime. Right in the capital, the standard ration card for each person month is 2 kilos of rice, half a kilos of black beans, 100 grams of chicken, more than 2 kilos of sugar. Children under 1 year old get 1 liter of milk per month. Of course, everyone has to buy the rest. Agricultural products and meat are sold at factories at state-regulated prices. In addition, almost all private businesses are prohibited. Anyone who butchers beef without a license can face 15-20 years in prison. On March 17, 2024, a small group of people took to the streets to peacefully protest the prolonged power outage and food shortages. Although their pockets are low on the streets of Cuba, it is impossible to find a newspaper boy, a shoe shiner, a person sleeping on the sidewalk, under a bridge, or a beggar. It is also rare to see teenagers dancing in nightclubs. In short, there is a gap between rich and poor, unlike India. And next is the cuisine that requires courage when eating with strange tastes. Cuban cuisine makes tourists cry out. If you want to go to Cuba, you must know all the flavors there before deciding whether to try it or not. Their cuisine is not as diverse as Vietnam, India, or Uzbekistan. Urban people or rural people, fancy restaurants or cheap eateries all have the same food. Breakfast is always the same: bread, eggs, milk, or a change of soft drink. That's it. The taste is very strange. One is too salty. There is a saying, salty food, salty urine. So when eating food here, remember to bring some bottles of water to drink. I heard that people in their country define salty food as people in love. So you should ask someone who has broken up to see if they cook it less salty. It's already salty, and it's also super sweet. It's not a shame to be a sugar country, producing 1.5 million tons of raw sugar every year. The people are subsidized by the government every month, and on average, a Cuban consumes 1 kilo of sugar a month. This guy, if he met me, he would probably get diabetes too soon. Not only that, he's also too fat. Guys, people in this country are extremely passionate about greasy food, like China. Everything must be poured with a little oil or lard. Many people say that eating white rice in Cuba is strange. That's right, their people have the habit of cooking rice with salt and cooking oil. They also often add black beans and red beans to cook with rice. It looks interesting, but I like white rice better. Not to mention they don't eat fish sauce. MSG, soy sauce, the main spices are just salt, salt, and salt. A 180-degree contrast to the happy country of Bhutan, which is passionate about adding chili to food. Cuba doesn't eat spicy food. If there's even a little bit of pepper in the food, it makes you want to scream. Therefore, only restaurants serving foreign guests have chili sauce. Fresh chili never appears. Finally, drinking water from the tap. You heard right. Cubans usually get water directly from the tap, let it cool and drink it. They don't have the habit of boiling it, so if you see a restaurant serving filtered water, you know where it comes from. And don't worry, the tap has a filtering system. If you don't have patience, don't eat here. Because they cook for a long time, simply because most of the dishes are made from beans, soaked and washed before cooking. In return for all the unpleasant taste, the food is extremely clean, chemical-free. You can eat it without worrying about getting cancer. Oh, I forgot to tell you one more thing. In Cuba, there is a type of restaurant hidden like a hidden camera. Wandering around the apartment buildings for locals in the capital, Havana, you will get lost in the dorms and restaurants without knowing it. The food in Cuba is limited, but it can't compare to the internet in this country. Living here makes you very old-fashioned. If you want to know if I'm exaggerating, just go to the next content and you will know. Internet system in Cuba. If anyone asks which country is not addicted to the internet, it is Cuba. To be more precise, Cuba is in the top countries with the worst internet infrastructure in the world. As of 2014, only about 30% of the people in this country have the opportunity to use the internet, all due to the information restriction policy of the Cuban government. This is similar to North Korea. In fact, the internet and mobile phones are luxuries for the people, because an hour of using public Wi-Fi costs $2. While the average salary is only $17.30 month, of course, 3G connection is even more luxurious. Don't expect 4G, 5G. Not to mention that there are too many people connecting to the same Wi-Fi network, so the access speed is slow, don't even ask. And application markets like Apple Store or Google Play also do not allow Cuban people to download applications. Therefore, for many years, Cubans often have to download data to USB, then share it with each other, then think of ways to develop offline applications. But actually, this point is not necessarily bad, because the internet creates many problems, right? The internet is rarely used. You will rarely see any accidents, but not because people do not post on the internet, but for the following reason. The country of antique cars and strange traffic laws. After President Kennedy's embargo in 1961, cars in Cuba became a luxury item, not imported or exported, not bought and sold, not replaced. From then on, old American cars manufactured before 1959 were not displayed in museums, but ran all over the streets. It is estimated that there are currently 60,000 old cars in circulation in Cuba, counting a few types such as Volkswagen, Opel Omega from Germany, Ford, Dodge cars from the very old US. People do everything to make them run, from repairing, maintaining, to replacing with spare parts imported from Russia. It is not difficult to see sick cars along the road and being repaired on the spot by the car owners, including women. Also, because of the high cost of gasoline, Cubans have the habit of hitchhiking and sharing gas money. The most unbelievable thing is that if there is an empty space in the state cars, they have to give free rides to people. If the police find out that the driver refuses, they will definitely be fined. Yes, you won't find this in any other country. Even if you use a convertible to run a taxi like this, Dubai doesn't have it. Yet traffic accidents in Cuba are among the lowest in the world. The number of people who die in traffic accidents in Cuba in a year is only equal to that in Vietnam in 3 days. Meanwhile, the rate of means of transport is quite high. With a population of 11 million, Cuba has 800,000 cars of all kinds, 50,000 motorbikes, and about 10,000 horse-drawn carriages. Oh, horse-drawn carriages are also a means of transport here, not just on the racetrack, my friends. The road system is very orderly, and if you drink and drive, even if there are no consequences, you will be sentenced to 18 months in prison. Driving without a license is 3 years in prison. If you are under 18 and dare to get on a motorbike, you will be sentenced to 3 months of community service, and your vehicle will be confiscated. With such a heavy fine, it is no wonder that accidents have decreased, right? And let's say you get into a car accident. You don't have to worry about money because their top-notch, almost free healthcare, no matter how great it is, the US has to bow down. So let the following content answer that for you. Health system. Although not rich, the Cuban government is very generous, especially in healthcare. Accordingly, every year, out of 29 million children in the world who die from common diseases, Cuba has none. The infant mortality rate is the lowest in the Americas, surpassing even the prosperous United States. The average life expectancy is the third highest in Latin America, with an average of 79.5 years. Currently, there are more than 2,070 cases of people over 100 years old. That is thanks to the policy of free health care for all people in Cuba. Therefore, private hospitals, private clinics, or other private medical facilities do not exist. This country also has a very high ratio of doctors and medical staff per capita. By 2022, Cuba will have 94,066 doctors, reaching a ratio of 8.4 doctors, 1,000 people, while this ratio in the US is 2.6 or in Italy is 4.1. Not only that, since 1999, Cuba's Havana Latin American Medical School has also generously provided free education, including full tuition, textbooks, accommodation, meals, and a stipend for 35,000 doctors from about 140 countries. No wonder their country has been able to cure many serious diseases that many countries have not been able to do. Not only medical schools, all Cuban students can go to university without paying tuition and are fed. A child of school age, if in a remote area, without a nearby school, will have a teacher come to teach at home. In addition to medical expenses, the Cuban government also spends money to buy all compact light bulbs to replace for free for the people. The last boss is something that the rich often use, but costs nearly $1 billion, and is the darling of Cuba. The billion-dollar Cuban cigar that fascinated former US president. I guess one of the people watching the video already knows about cigars. Cigars are not only a symbol of power, associated with the image of many famous world politicians, such as former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, former U.S. President John Kennedy, or Cuban President Fidel Castro. but now they have also become a luxury item. Many billionaires are willing to spend a lot of money to have a collection of cigar boxes. Typically, the most expensive cigar in the world is Cohiba Bihike, with an exorbitant price of $880 cigar, and a box is 800 USD. Inheriting the expensive level is Monte Cristo 155 USD cigar, 5/10th anniversary 136 USD cigar. Play bigger. In the auction on the closing day of the 16th Annual Cigar Festival in Havana, 6 boxes of premium Cuban cigars brought in more than 1.1 million USD. The most recent time, on June 27, 2024, the cigar auction held in London, England also raised 5.15 million euros. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's also thanks to cigars that this country has revived its economy from the abyss. Cuba's leading cigar manufacturer, Habanos, recently revealed that sales skyrocketed to a record 721 million USD in 2023. Today's video of exploring Cuba ends here. After watching the video, what impressed you most about Cuba? Please leave your comments in the comments section. Thank you for following the top 10 mysteries all this time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support us. And now, goodbye and see you again. With